Hello and welcome to the Horoscope Vault, a podcast that explores the week ahead through the lens of astrology with a view to helping you make more confident decisions through life's chapters. I'm Charlie, and today's episode is for the week beginning April 16th, which is a big week in astrology as it is officially eclipse season. I'll look at each sign's horoscope using the solar chart method, and of course this can be personalized further through an individual reading too, so go ahead and explore the show notes if you feel like you need more customized answers and personalized insights for your week ahead. So it is eclipse season, and a new moon eclipse brings the sun conjunct the moon, which is essentially what a new moon is. The sun and the moon are next to each other, and this aspect is happening with both of these luminaries square the planet Pluto, which is newly in the sign of Aquarius. So there are matters of loss, there are matters of power and unfairness and control. Situations to do with death, rebirth, extreme wealth, extreme secrets, manipulation, just massive changes and reformation all round. It's kind of the inside, the outside, and everything in between in life is up for a complete turnaround now. A new moon is where the sun and moon share the same degree of a sign. They're next to each other in an almost side-by-side stance. But with an eclipse situation, the moon passes in between the earth and the sun, so it has this darkening effect on the solar light, which really changes the usual kind of pop astrology, new moon, new start dynamic into something a little bit more potent and a lot more serious. You may have heard that the eclipse times are not for manifestation, and that's correct. Old school stuff was, any kind of lunar event was okay, but new practices are explaining that eclipses are not for planting seeds. They're not for thinking about putting stuff into action. The energy is chaotic because it's unusual. Eclipse seasons happen in 6-month increments roughly. They happen 2 times a year, and they create this overall big massive theme imprint. A specific episode on the mystery of eclipses is available to listen. So if you want to learn more about these big events and their origins and meanings, I will put that episode in the show notes below. So this week, the solar eclipse is in the sign of Aries at 29 degrees, which is quite significant because the degree is considered an anaretic degree in astrology. Anaretic means fateful. It's a fateful experience. It's a peak experience. Essentially, this is like the last straw. It's the last chance of something. It's the last season of doing this, or the last attempt at trying to make that specific thing a reality before you make your final conclusion or change everything completely. And the impact of a solar eclipse does last 6 months. Most new moons do. And they're usually then bookended by a full moon in the same sign 6 months later. An eclipse 6-month period tends to be the main theme going on. So it represents the umbrella theme under which a lot of little themes happen beneath. The new moon in Aries, which is about self, is in an approaching square with Pluto in Aquarius, which is social and structural power. This is going to be very generational. If people are having kind of discord between certain generations, just to name a few, boomers, Gen X's, millennials, the whole list is there. The interactions between these are going to feel strong and aggressive at the time. Globally, in mundane astrology, this eclipse is in the war sign of Aries. Aries always points to war, action, and aggression. It also points to vehicles, mechanics, engineering. And being an eclipse of a new moon, it actually suggests the start of these issues. And, we might be thinking we're already in the midst of all of those things. And while some astrologers prefer to glaze over the challenges of those situations, ignoring the potential crisis and conflict, this channel doesn't think that that's healthy to do. They say that prevention is better than cure. And so being aware in advance puts you in a stronger position to deal with something, even if it's the case of being made aware of possible instability or something that's a struggle. You know, you would cross a bridge with a different stride and a different pace, or you wouldn't cross the bridge at all if you knew that the bridge was weak. So preparation is key, not to sound cliche, but it really, really is. The astrology world online is an ever-changing landscape right now, with lots of people interested in the practice, which is amazing. And some even taken to social media and other platforms to share their perspective. It is becoming quite interesting out there in the pop astrology world, with lots of alternating and sometimes conflicting pieces of information. It is important to be mindful of toxic positivity in astrology as much as it is the works that are full of warning. You know, you need to be cautious of both. Sitting somewhere safely in between, I think the Horoscope Vault is all about matter-of-fact presentations of astrological findings with no bias, and just simply explaining the benefits and challenges of anything in a way that you feel able to manage, control, and prepare for situations, whichever end of the spectrum they are on. So back to the eclipse. This eclipse, it squares Pluto, creating a directional change socially. This is a slow change, a sweeping change. The things that adjust under the impact of Pluto most usually are things instigated by Pluto transits in a long-term turnaround way. It usually involves the demise of something first. That's why it takes time. It's kind of a chrysalis experience, a cocoon of darkness and shadow before the beautiful bright-winged flight can take place. Lots of friendship changes are seen first and foremost. Also, just general social shifts, groups of like-minded people coming together more, or groups of people who have spent a lifetime together discovering that they need to separate more. There's also tech-related developments. All these kind of networking things are the domain of Pluto in Aquarius. And Pluto deals with manipulation. It deals with jealousy, dominating experiences, dominating energy. So these things may be floating around in your experience right now. The intensity can be organized, though, if you choose to take it and put it into something. As an example, if you are being manipulated, then how can you manipulate something else in a positive way? And manipulate simply means to handle or to control. What can you handle, or what can you control better, so that handle and control are not forced on you from outside situations or people. In extreme cases, it's a good idea to watch out for other people who are trying to handle or control you just in case. Not necessarily always direct. This aspect is not an opposition in the sky, so it won't be literal implications from another. It's more like subtle, nuanced hints of being told what to do, or expectations that don't fit, or just a general lack of meshing, kind of like in your environment alongside the people that you are around. Things don't work anymore. The eclipse happening in a square. We mentioned squares before in a previous episode, and the aspects really determine the experience of a situation. So a square is an inner tension. It's within you. It's whatever you are dealing with. It's within yourself. It's about yourself. It's to do with just you, just yourself, and no one else can help out, really. Even if there are outside instigators, environments that give you an unsettled experience, it's still very, very personal. You are still in that environment. You can choose to be outside of that environment in a way. It's happening from the sign of Aries, making it even more personal. It makes it especially personal to Aries people, or anyone with strong Aries placements. But it is essentially about the self-direction, and the last kind of chance for some independent action. The particular happenings for each sign during the eclipse are detailed in the sign-specific sections as usual, which will be time-stamped below. Overall, though, it's a general inner pressure tension, which is how it can feel, like an imploding pressure. But there's tension from whatever you are thinking and doing, pushing outside as well. It's pushing outwards and preventing the collapse. So it's this dynamic pressure in both ways. The same day as the eclipse, we do have the sun entering Taurus, which I, for one, am super excited about because it will bring some chill to some recently less chill experiences. When any planet moves through Taurus, Taurus slows it down. It's like driving through sand or soil. You have to go slower. If you go too fast, consciously, if you do pressure to go fast, you'll dig yourself into a hole. You'll get stuck and you'll be spinning your wheels. So the sun moving into Taurus, squaring Pluto as it does, continues the theme of self-change, inner tension and inner control. And where Aries was about the self and direction that you're going in life, your physical body, that kind of thing, Taurus is about what you need to be a healthy physical body. So it's about food. It's what you need to support the direction you're going in. So it's all about resources. This is money and possessions and your income. In the bigger picture, if I were to choose one word for Taurus, Taurus is about security. It's about foundations that support you on whatever path that it is you're on. And the sun is still squaring Pluto as it makes its sign change into the slower, more certain sign of Taurus. So what felt like a rush to make decisions and take action now requires a much slower, steadier approach, especially if you want to make the things work. And this is all occurring on Thursday. And then, of course, Friday, we have the first Mercury retrograde of 2023, technically, beginning. Though the year did start in a retrograde of Mercury, it was one that was already active from 2022. This one comes along to sweep everything up and sprinkle some lightly acceptable chaos just about everywhere. A retrograde is the appearance of a planet moving backwards. It doesn't actually move backwards, but the Earth becomes superior in its orbit. The best way I've found to describe this is if two cars are driving side by side and one overtakes the other. Both are still technically going forward in motion, but if you are in the faster car, it appears to you as though the car next to you is falling backwards, even though they are still driving forwards. That car falling backwards is Mercury. And when it's behind the Earth, it's kind of said to be in our planet's blind spot. So 21st of April, Mercury retrograde begins in the sign of Taurus. All the tensions and inner stresses and the pressures we have recently been feeling to search for stability, security, financial comfort, food comfort even, and just general comfort, all of this is thrown up in the air. Mercury retrograde happens 3 times per year, and it's usually in the same element. So this year, all 3 of those will be in earth signs. We know what Taurus represents now. Looking at what Mercury represents and adding that to the situation will help us understand it more. So Mercury is the thoughts, the mind, the nervous system, its vehicles, siblings, communication. The age-old take is that when Mercury goes rogue like this, there are misunderstandings. So firstly, yes, misunderstandings with money, misunderstandings with possessions. If you live in a shared situation, that could become very awkward now. Anything from kind of someone drinking the last of the milk and leaving the container in the fridge to someone picking up loose change laying around that wasn't theirs. There could be arguments about how things are stored. On the theme of misunderstandings with money, it could be the act of being underpaid for work that you did. It could be messed up paychecks. And happening around tax deadline time, shortly after that, I imagine a lot of tax paperwork is going to be heavily erroneous, or at the least very, very, very delayed in the processing. This week just seems like a stall. Like everything is stalling. A push for independence and stability, which is kind of given the thumbs up by the universe. The eclipse and the retrograde says now that you must tend to your own direction and plans for the next 6 months, but it doesn't want you to do it quickly. There's no rushing out of the gate, because when has that ever really worked? For things to go right now, for things to go correctly, they have to be done in a different way from what you've ever done before. It's like the saying that says, if you always do what you've always done, then you'll always have what you've always got. Subtle, structured change can support anyone through anything at this time. The sign-specific readings can obviously offer so much more insight, and not just for your sun sign, your earth sign and your unconscious sign are important too. So your earth sign was literally the constellation planet Earth was in when you were born on it. And your unconscious sign is said to be the sign 88 days or 88 degrees before you were born. This was the point of your soul entering your body while still in the womb, and it captures the driving essence of why you're here. When listening to your horoscopes, take all three of these signs into account. Make notes if you can of the main points for all three of those, your sun sign, your earth sign, and your unconscious. And from those notes, you'll have a pretty rounded idea of what awaits you this week. And of course, listen all the way through your sign to get the most out of the information. Aries. So, talking about personal, this eclipse is the most personal for you. It's in your sign. It's at an anaretic degree, 29 degrees. So, this for you really is the last straw of something before it takes a serious turn. Emotional situations with parents, other relatives, or even a landlord could arise. And this starts a 6-month process of figuring out if your home even fits you anymore. So arguments in that area are possible this week, and you may have to stick up for yourself and be kind of stern when speaking to others, maybe to do with being ignored or being misheard. Like, people hear you, they hear what you say, but they process what you say through their perspective without truly listening to what you are meaning. Your words get changed. They get twisted this week. And when the sun enters Taurus, you may remove yourself from this battle to be authentic and instead go into a kind of nose to the grindstone mode where you slowly and quietly do your thing without talking or sharing. You move towards making changes, and it's the feeling of stubbornly fighting alone. The retrograde is going to impact everyone's finances, but specifically yours, as you reevaluate your money, your savings, and your general financial plans too. This is roughly 3 weeks long, so use control and manipulation in your accounts to make the most of this overall shift. And make sure to listen to your earth sign Libra and your unconscious sign Capricorn to get further insights on the events of what this week brings for you. Taurus. So the eclipse is coming in from your blind spot and happening in Aries. It's kind of the sign behind you. There may be some emotional tactics going on in your life between family and other various relatives and even siblings that are a little bit shady. The family life can be quite demanding now, whether literally or through taking up space in your emotions. If there have been lies, deceit, emotional manipulation, and blackmail, then the seeds of these things could still be sprouting. There may be just a little bit more information drip fed into your awareness. And in the absence of secrets and privacy like this, it could show up as matters involving the father or a father-like figure. So like a male guardian or parent, like in your experience, could go through some health changes, or they may find a completely new lease of life with some new purpose and excitement. The next 6 months could bring thoughts around your living space. A change of residence may be desired, and if so, it's the long game that you're playing on this one. You either haven't experienced enough of the world and you want to leave your stationary nest and get out there more, or you've been chopping and changing locations so much that stability is now what you crave. The sun moving into your sign is a 30-ish day notice period of shining a light directly on your next move, your decision, your choices, all these things that add up to where you're going next. And thanks to the square from Pluto, whether you've been taking care of business by making efforts to control your life direction, which happens to be correct now, versus letting the powers that be flip your life around like a carcass, well, is down to your previous experience. Are you in control, or are you being controlled? Are you taking the reins, or are you along for the ride? Mercury retrograde in your sign creates a distinct reevaluation of your life plans. Your health will catch your attention, especially if you've been ignoring important facets of your physical wellness evolution. Your finances will catch your attention, especially if you've been ignoring matters there too. By the end of the retrograde, you will be feeling brand spanking new, which is a plus. Don't let the process of reevaluating everything scare you. This is a Madonna transit, Madonna of old, the Madonna that changed up and transformed to reemerge all fresh So make sure to listen to your earth sign Scorpio and your unconscious sign Aquarius to get further insight on the events of what this week. Gemini, this eclipse brings you 6 months of financial seriousness, and there's a lot of effort needed now to avoid the negative pitfalls of financial matters. But you can use this positively to make a 6-month game plan towards a really big dream goal that you have. You may be more prone to losing things, and that's your personal items. So things slip through your fingers a lot easier than usual, and you may even lose something this week that you are super attached to, an object or something similar that has high emotional value. If you don't want to lose important items, put them away safe this week. Communications with neighbors or relatives become intense. You may not be comfortable in your neighborhood anymore, or you just want a less busy, less trafficked space. Some shady behavior in your close proximity and environment could be from the people you go to school with, the people you share living space with, or generally just a neighbor. But shady behavior could be blatant disrespect of rules through kind of loud music and crazy parties, or through someone asking too many favors of you, or anything that just generally gets suspicious. The retrograde of your ruling planet always affects you massively, no matter what the sign is. Mercury, which rules your sign of Gemini, is going retrograde in Taurus, and of course that impacts Taurus a lot because it's their sign, but it's your ruling planet, so that kind of tops it off. Whenever this planet goes wayward, you can feel a little bit wacky, a little bit off kilter, and this retrograde happens in your 12th house of sleep, suspicion, unconscious. It kind of brings a hatred for the rat race. Everyone going crazy for earthly material possessions is fine usually, but for some reason this could really bother you now and for the next 3 weeks. Your mental focus goes from super sharp to super annoyed, and insomnia may be a thing too. Having good stress relief practices can be the most helpful during this time. Make sure you listen to your earth sign Sagittarius and your unconscious sign Pisces to get further insight on the events of what this week brings for you. The sign of Cancer. So the eclipse is happening in your unconscious sign. So it really is important for you to listen to the Aries horoscope this week. It's your unconscious constellation. And so while in your solar chart this happens in your area of career and future, unconsciously it's impacting your home and your family dynamics too. Relationships and connections with women become much more intense and maybe even problematic. You may feel like you're under the emotional manipulation of someone else, and you may be being subject to control attempts by them. A lack of objective perspective in and around your home life can really feel unsettling. Cancer is a sensitive sign, it's the sign of the home. So people going off on emotional tangents is actually quite dangerous for you in the sense that you absorb all of that haywire emotion and it feels really crappy. It could actually result in sickness. This starts a 6-month period where you will be independent of those imposing forces, like by the end of it. So if things do feel heavy now, keep going. I promise, I assure you that this is the pathway that leads you directly to the self-sufficiency and self-reliance that you desire. Your values are changing a lot, and that can be experienced through a realignment of goals as well as possessions. You can sell items that don't really fit your life anymore. This is a great way to use this energy positively. As with all signs, use caution with finances now in order to maintain the feeling. The sun moving into Taurus plus Mercury retrograde in the same sign of Taurus is going to give you a complete realignment of goals. A plan or project may take on a whole different vibe and direction under this energy. So try not to be too rigid in how you think you want things to be, and be open to a shift in direction because it could be so much better. The shift will bring you more stability. So try to see any change as an opportunity that could be more helpful. And in general, don't be scared of the change. Make sure to listen to your earth sign Capricorn and your unconscious sign Aries to get further insight on the events of what this week brings for you. Leo. So this week can be an emotionally intense week for you. If you have any compulsive behaviors or things that you consider addictions or things that you don't want to do anymore, this can also be simple obligations in life that are a little bit too heavy. All of this can feel even more intense than usual this week. You may feel like you are at a loss, or you may have actually lost something or considered something that's recently ended as a loss. But it might be that you're withdrawing from something. It could be a person, a dynamic, a substance, an idea, a project, a job. It's just that you're going through a lot of changes as one of this year's like biggest playing signs. You've got the most adjustments happening next to the sign of Aquarius, which also happens to be your earth sign. So there's just a general increase of shifting in your life. You are essentially going through a several year period, similar to what the sign of Cancer has just been through for the last few years. So if you do know someone who is a Cancer, ask them about their life changes and actually listen, because they have just done 14 years of what you are about to do 14 years of. New goals require different habits. And your sense of identity is changing massively at this time. So you may have more ambition than before, but all of the squares from Pluto ask you to keep check of anyone in your environment that creates problems with your ambitious change. And this isn't direct involvement of another person. It's more your thoughts about their influence and, you know, where you stand now, still holding on to their ideas or opinions. Those thoughts can be internalized, and you can look at where you need to stay vigilant in your boundaries for the next 6 months. The Sun moving into Taurus and the Mercury retrograde at the same time is in your area of future plans, career, and reputation. You're still in the middle of figuring out what you want to do with yourself and your life, and that's likely to go through a whole succession of adjustments in the near future. This retrograde lesson is about how setbacks actually help you get better aligned. So that as you're moving forward through space, time, and life, you don't burn along one single path, irrespective of its appropriateness for you. It's learning how to make minor adjustments along the way. Everything for Leo right now is about adjustments. Make sure you listen to your earth sign Aquarius and your unconscious sign Taurus to get further insight on the events of what this week brings for you. Virgo. Friends and acquaintances may factor greatly in your life this week, and a lot of people pull you in many directions, but there is the alternative that's possible. That's that no one connects and no one communicates with you, and you feel isolated in an unusual way. A kind of crisis point, which is a difficult situation that comes up from the depths of your emotion, can send you into ambition overdrive. And if you're not careful, may give you a little sneak preview as to what burnout feels like. Burnout, which could come fully in 6 months' time at the end of this eclipse, can impact you if you're not careful about using your resources right now. And that's using your resources to help yourself instead of help others. So that's your money, your energy, and your time. If you hit a period of stagnation or inactivity through your own doings, so this is like taking a break from a heavy, demanding element in your life for a few months, this could be a very healing time. The eclipse could work in your favor if you can hit the pause button with anything high energy and anything high octane. You'll have to try and put effort in to do this, though, because stepping down and, you know, reducing the speed of everything just a notch is not your natural inclination. The Mercury retrograde, which is your ruling planet, is in a fellow Earth sign, and it impacts you positively through a trine, which is nice. It adds even more to the slowing down suggestion that the universe is putting forward towards you. This is some unconscious encouragement to explore new horizons, to take a break with your regimented routines, and to explore a second option when it comes to your future career plans. There's a second choice somewhere that you are either ignoring or you haven't discovered the desire for yet. Make sure to listen to your earth sign Pisces and your unconscious sign Gemini to get further insight on the events of what this week brings for you. Libra. A change of career has been chasing you. You've been playing cat and mouse with this whole change of career dynamic, and it could be playing on your mind really intensely now, as this week's eclipse is in your opposite house. It could replay words from someone else in your mind over and over again. These could be words that inspired faith in your next step or inspired fear. They could be choice words that someone said weeks or even months ago, and if you take them in and use them correctly, the slightly veiled advice could absolutely put you on this clear, straight and narrow path that you realize is right for you at this time. Alternatively, if you do nothing about the warning that were giving to you in the last, I would say, 6 months, or you choose not to heed the advice that you find coming to you in your surroundings, you may have an intense next 6 month period of feeling unsure, unstable, and uncomfortable. Your work situation is just background noise in a time of confusion, and your higher ups may be going through a difficult personal crisis that trails impacts into your everyday work field. In fact, everyone around you seems to be going through some kind of chrysalis experience, with some of your close friends finding their power and stepping into self-discovery and overcoming their struggles. I mean, your surroundings stabilize or destabilize you. So it's very relevant for you to take into consideration how the environment is changing and how it's doing it through the people that you know. Are you connecting with people who are positively changing, or are you sticking to outdated modalities and beliefs that are keeping you stuck in this difficult cycle? The Mercury retrograde in Taurus and the Sun's presence there too at the end of the week. The Mercury retrograde in Taurus and the Sun's presence there too at the end of the week let you know that the answers will not come from your mind. They just won't. You can't think and think and think and get the answers. You can think all you like, but for the next few weeks, the intelligence that comes to you is more subtle, nuanced, and spiritual. Messages are more like little synchronicity, so pay attention to them this week. Make sure to listen to your Earth sign Aries and your unconscious sign Cancer to get further insight on the events that this week could bring for you. This week for Scorpio, so travel of some kind is possibly on your mind in the next 6 months, the plans of which begin now. It could be a big, fateful kind of travel, like something you are destined to do. This is travel that you have to take because it will somehow change your life in a huge way. Or this could be mind-expanding travel, where you learn something new, opening your mind and thinking a different way from what you usually think. These mind-expanding situations come through contact with people. These are foreign people, or these are people giving you foreign ideas, foreign cultures, foreign concepts. Anything kind of unfamiliar is thrust into your realm now, and it's your opportunity to embrace the odd developments. There's a gift in there somewhere if you surrender to the stuff that seems weird and unusual to you. The perceived illogical way of doing something, the way that doesn't make sense to you, will be the exact way that it needs to be done. Your nighttime dreams, so these are the images in your mind when you sleep, could be pretty intense, and this is really from your waking desire to get ahead of things like bills, resources, and work. Power struggles with others look like having to deal with someone who is not doing as you think they should. But be very careful with pointing those kinds of should have comments towards other people, because this is more about you and your way of doing things. It doesn't necessarily mean others are doing things wrong. This is all about everybody staying in their own lane. And to get the respect from others that you deserve, you must offer the same in return and let people be. You can disagree, but with Mercury retrograde in your opposite sign, the time is not right to speak up on it just yet. Make sure to listen to your Earth sign Taurus and your unconscious sign Leo to get further insight on the events that this week could bring for you. Sagittarius. Matters with female relatives hit an all-time high. These don't have to be current matters. This can indicate wrongdoings or tensions from years ago. Things that the relatives themselves have zero idea of, yet the actions and behaviors are still impacting your life today somehow. If the matters are current, you'll have a tough week of really feeling the pressure to get distance from damaging family dynamics. It's kind of a surrender to the fact that change in your home or in your family is unlikely. It's almost like the last chance for change. And in absence of someone else doing the work that they need to do to become a healthier, safer person, you'll need to get stronger at setting boundaries. This is a cutting off energy. cutting someone off or distancing yourself from arrogant, egotistical personalities. And this includes your own if you've been too iron-fisted. But generally, this is going to be seen as a very tyrannical and despotic person in your life who is just too much. They're too overpowering. They're too dogmatic. It's someone who is very, it's my way or the highway. And if their opinion and energy is something that you agree with, then this could be quite an alignment. This could be good. If someone truly has your best interests at heart, then what they say to or at you resonates. You may find comfort in that. But if it's an autocratic type of person or energy, then you're going to want to get as far away as possible as soon as. Partners, romantically or business wise, may be experiencing the low end of things. Low income, low resources, low mindset, low mood, low motivation. This could be someone you are close to going through depression. If romantically involved, your partner may be at like a rock bottom kind of place and really, really down. If this is business or work wise, then of course your professional surroundings may be empty or may be heading towards bank. You hold your ground this week, though it's not a make or break situation for you. It's just a case of observing the situations surrounding your everyday, gaining beliefs based on your current reality. There's no ifs, there's no maybes. It's more about assessing the fact of the matter surrounding you and witnessing everything exactly as it is and deciding if you want to be part of it that way, if it were to never change, or if you don't. It sets in motion 6 months of change that seeks to release you from anything boring or dominating or manipulative or dull. Planning travel now could have an element of concern to it. This could be poorly planned travel that goes wrong and stresses you out to the max, or this could actually be negative consequences of not traveling. The Mercury retrograde going through your 6th house of health and work wants to make sure that you prioritize your health no matter what goes wrong with your work. As far as things going wrong, a retrograde of Mercury usually brings with it messes to do with communication, vehicles, messages, emails, and similar. In the sign of Taurus, it's also dealing with security, resources, and money too. So you could find payment machines not working, systems not working up to standard, like a general feeling of going backwards within the workplace. Be careful to not let this impact your health this week because the two are very closely connected, work and wellness. Make sure to listen to your earth sign Gemini and your unconscious sign Virgo to get further insight on the events of what this week brings for you. Capricorn. So your closest relationships, and that includes romantic, business, and family. One or more of these could ramp up in its intensity. In one way, this could be good if there's a forever romance in the works. Alternatively, because the eclipse is happening in Aries at a fateful degree, this could be something that bubbles up from beneath the surface once and for all. It needs to come out to be dealt with. Things are still quite serious for your sign, even though Pluto left the sign of Capricorn last month. It's going to retrograde back there this summer, so an ominous kind of looming feeling may still be with you. You are down for some serious focus in the next 6 months of putting in efforts in your family or your home or real estate or to do with your living location and similar. Could bring some pretty permanent financial results, the kind of results that you actually desire that come about around September, October time. Mercury retrograde in your area of fun is the most boring position for this. Investments won't go as planned, so don't plan them. Speculate to accumulate and all of that kind of good stuff present in the area of your most valuable projects. With Mercury trailing backwards there through that space, you're not going to make too much headway, so don't stress yourself out trying. 3 weeks of this asks that you find different ways to have fun and more chill ways to relax. Ones that cost you less money in the long run, ones that kind of support your wellness too. So get comfortable with things like meal prepping. Make sure to listen to your earth sign Cancer and your unconscious sign Libra to get further insights on the events that this week could bring for you. Aquarius. The eclipse is in your area of communication, local space, and learning. Those are three widely varying topics, but this kind of spread thin theme is very active in your life this week. You can watch for problems with your digestive tract and stomach. There could be upsets here that indicate something is out of alignment, and you don't necessarily want to be scattered, but situations changing in work and agreements like your relationships will have that kind of effect, and you muster up and deal with it, but this can feel intense to the nervous system. Regarding work specifically, it may seem like your colleagues are not giving you the space or the respect that you feel you need and deserve. You may not be getting things your way. You may not be getting what you want, and that's important to you regarding your psychological well-being. It's a tough situation to balance, a kind of where needs must situation, and you may step up to do something, but you really, really don't want to. If you're in a relationship, your partner may seem different, or you see them through a different lens. The person they were seems to have changed from who they appeared to be when you first met. This has the potential of being both challenging and positive. It can be challenging if who they have become is different to your morals and values. But then again, if they've changed for the better and put poor behavior or immature ways behind them, you may be blindingly proud of how they've grown. In areas of struggle where someone is different in an undesirable way, you may start to feel like you want out of the connection, and this applies to business too. If the terms of agreement have changed, you'll assess that this week, and if they're in your favor or against your best interests, that's where you'll be taking the focus. No action is necessary yet, though. Mercury moving retrograde through your chart sector of home is going to bring all kinds of communicative error in your everyday living space. Before you pick up the phone, you'll want to screen who is calling, and before you get into an argument, you'll want to really consider if you've got the energy or not, because at a time where compromise is far from achievable, it may be better to just leave everything be and come back to the issues in a few weeks. You could quite comfortably put your head in the sand this week. Make sure to listen to your earth sign Leo and your unconscious sign Scorpio to get further insight of the events that this week could bring for you. Pisces week ahead. So the eclipse is happening in your chart sector of finances, values, and resources. And that's the first place to go regarding where this eclipse is going to be felt for you. So it can be nuanced. These matters of resources and values can come up through untamed health issues for yourself or a family member, and you might not connect this directly with food and money, but they are closely connected to a lack of physical activity or too much of the wrong indulgences. And indulgences are wrong when they take away quality of life from you. So this is for you to judge. Are there habits that you know you need to change and you really have not been doing so? If so, why not? The next 6 months of this eclipse can bring those things up continuously until you face them. If you have children, they may be going through things right now. They may be in need. This is not to say that they need anything specific that you can help with. They may need space, or they may need answers. They may just need lots of love. It's quite likely that they're going through a change that's going to be very positive in the end, but seems like a struggle for now. And if you are closely connected with them, then this naturally will impact you. For whatever reason, maybe a perspective of lack or worry about not having enough resources, things may push you to work harder, or may push you to push everyone around you to work harder. Just don't be overpowering, and be careful to get enough rest to avoid unnecessary stress on your heart. And don't thrust your requirements onto others because of your fears. Otherwise, you may find that come September, October time, you've lost a close connection with someone and feel some regret because of it. The Mercury retrograde is in your area of communication. So you and everyone else are going to be very foot in mouth. Pisces is the feet and Taurus is the throat. So yeah, lots of quick spoken words that you may wish to take back, some tactless or even embarrassing communication that kind of has you cringing and wishing that you had waited before saying something. Taurus is a slow energy, so be slow to deliver your words and you're less likely to feel the consequences and more likely to find confidence in your voice. Make sure to listen to your earth sign Virgo and your unconscious sign Sagittarius to get further insight on the events that this week could bring for you. So that's it for this week. This really is one of the bigger astrological weeks of this year, and the themes that your horoscope bring up for this week can be very prominent lasting for the next 6 months. This year and a kind of run up to the summer can feel full of pressure, whereas next week may feel a tiny bit more relieving and give you some insight on how to decompress from the approach to the middle of the year, where everything should be a lot more fun and light. Planetary movements aren't a signature for failure, and they're not a guarantee of success either. What they tend to offer is insight into the ever moving goalposts of life, and they allow you some resonance during times of change, so you don't think that you're going crazy, so that you don't try and live in this toxic positive mindset that certain practices convince you is important. The natural ebb and flow of life is always going to be up and down. It has to be in order for existence to continue. It's like a set of lungs that must inhale and then they must exhale. And in understanding the deeper meaning behind times of fluctuation, you can keep your head on your shoulders and handle life without feeling so blindsided. Next week is a much more soothing experience of retrograde action when Mercury in Taurus sextiles Mars in Cancer, letting you down on something gently, but with a special reward for handling it well. And then a Sun in Taurus sextile Saturn in Pisces configuration brings some peace in a certain area of your existence. So make sure to follow and subscribe so you can tune in next week to find out when and where the reward and peace will bless your life. If you have a question to be answered on a future episode of the Horoscope Vault, send it to the email in the show notes below. A whole episode on these questions is in the making. Some are intriguing questions and some are downright crazy questions to be explored. So that'll be a funny but informative episode, I'm sure. Send anything you're curious about astrologically and stay safe during Eclipse week.